Welcome back to Mik'd Up. We are brought to you by Sterling Automotive. We led the show off with Mike Leach Appreciation Day. We're going to celebrate the life of Mike Leach. It was a very entertaining life. It was a very quirky life. It was a very...
Burn bright.
He was unapologetically himself, and that's something that a lot of people can't say. Our next guest is our friend of the show.
Also unapologetically
himself. He was formerly the LSU Director of High School and Community Relations, and before that was recruiting specialist at Mississippi State. So he worked directly with Mike Leach, under Mike Leach, was around Mike Leach, got to experience some of the Mike Leach legendary stories, I would imagine. And Mason Smith, thanks for coming on the show, bro. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, man, Leach was a special cat. We over at Mississippi State, he retained me. I was hired on from Joe Moorhead, who was the offensive coordinator with Saquon Barkley and everybody at Penn State, replaced Dan Mullen. And so that was the first year after the early signing period. So that we were still trying to figure everything out. We have the Elijah Moore celebration, if you will. So we can end up making a bowl game. And, when you're working in football, dude, I'm like, bowl bonus? You mean I get an extra month's salary? Look, I don't care how we get there. Let's just get there, And so we go to Louisville. We played a bowl game in Louisville and Nashville, and they killed us. Tutu Atwell, I think, has 70 receptions, 800 yards, and I might be shortchanged. And it's 9 degrees. We're all sitting on the sideline. It's not fun. Well, about 2 days later, we all get a call. Coach Moorhead gets let go. So none of us know what's going to go on. We're all, people are calling us, hey, what have you heard? We don't know anything. And then they just tell us, hey, Coach Leach is going to be landing tomorrow afternoon. And you're sitting there and you're like, wait, we hired Mike Leach? Because anybody that's around football, Mike Leach,
Right.
So it was just how he wanted to do it. He just told everybody, yeah, I'm going to get on the plane. So he gets on the plane and we're all like, all right, I guess we're meeting our boss today. And so he gets through everything and he has a team meeting at 6. He's going to announce to everybody who he is, all that stuff. It's a 3-minute meeting. He leaves the meeting. He's like, all right, guys, where can we go out around here?
Yeah, I heard he likes to drink a little bit. He likes to throw some bourbon back.
Yeah. He's a nightlife guy, and so it was very fun learning that because everyone's trying to pick his brain and stuff, and he could effortlessly sit there and talk to you about why he evaluates quarterbacks the way he does, and then also talk to you about kangaroos for 30 minutes, and it's a seamless transition. When you're talking to him, you feel it. You're like, all right, yeah, I do know how we got here. When you were talking about footwork, and now kangaroos, yeah, they are a little too big, Coach. I don't know why they're so big. And so it's just he was one of a kind, man, and he was unapologetically himself, like you said, and he never changed that. When you're first meeting him, you're kind of trying to see if it's an act, and it's not. I was so confused at how it's 4 a.m. and he's wide awake, and then we start to all learn he's kind of like a vampire, man.
Yeah.
He'd go to bed at 5, 6 in the morning. That was his 10 o'clock, midnight. And so we were so used to staff meetings, man. Well, we didn't have staff meetings under Coach Leach. It was awesome. You're coming in and Coach is just coming in the afternoon and he's ready for ball. Just the second he walks in, and there are a couple times, he's walking in different colored socks. And you're like, hey, Coach, just when you're first meeting him, like, Coach, did you know that? And he's like, doesn't change Saturdays and would keep it moving. And you're like, shit, you know what, Coach? You're right. that doesn't change the outcome of the game. So he always kept a good mindset with that. And, recruiting wise, he was awesome, man.
How was he in meetings with recruits or when people came and talked to him about trying to get them to Mississippi State? Because he is such a quirky guy and he would do certain things and say certain things that it may not land with everybody, right? How was his interaction with recruits?
So, he at first you were kind of like, all right, Coach, let's stay between the ditches and just keep going down the road. And then you're like, that's trying to put handcuffs on him. You just got to let him be him, what is it like in the other guys? He's a peacock. You just got to let him fly.
Yeah,
so,
right.
That's just what we had to do. And it was awesome, and the coolest thing was when quarterbacks would come in. It didn't matter. In other positions, at a school like Mississippi State, you sit there and you're like, all right, we got to battle. We know the schools we're going to battle. Some guys, we see them get that offer and we know that, it's going to be a real uphill battle, and you have to make that decision on if you're going to dig your feet in or not. But with quarterbacks, dude, quarterbacks came from all around the country wanting to talk to them. They just wanted 10 minutes with them. We had KJ Costello that offseason. So that was the guy that Coach circled as his guy for the transfer portal. And so I'm still learning Coach Leach, and I was the recruiting guy with KJ for the weekend. So KJ comes in fresh off the plane, Stanford graduate. So already I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about this whole time.
He's way smarter than me.
So 100%. And he's like, I got to take my last final. So we take a final, by the way, in the Holiday Inn in Starkville. We're just sitting there waiting. Coach Leach is just like having a great time talking to, random guests that are coming in. He greeted a couple like he was like working on staff. And I'm like, Coach, you don't work here. He's just like, hey guys, welcome to Starkville. As families were coming on in. But then we go into the stadium, man. We're talking with KJ. KJ doesn't want to go out with the host. He was just like, look, man, I want to talk ball with Coach. Sat down in the stadium. I got the short end of the stick, so we didn't leave the stadium until 5 a.m. Their flight left at 5:45 a.m., so it was my job to get them to the airport and not miss it. And so
you missed a flight?
No, I didn't. He didn't. I got him there. Trust me.
Okay.
I got him there. I made sure of that because that was Coach's prized possession. But it was one of those where I'm like, hey, Coach, they got to go soon, and he's like, I don't know, they're fine. But that was him, and you had to know, you could get an itinerary, dude, just shred it.
Damn, so he just talked to this kid till 5 o'clock in the morning on his visit.
5 o'clock in the morning.
That's unbelievable.
They talked about everything. His family was, they're a very fluent background. They're a very successful business family, Fortune 500 companies. And they wanted to talk to Coach about, when he'd go up in the mountains, hang out in the mountains in Wyoming and stuff like that. And that was the thing about Mike that he did such an awesome job with, was that he found one avenue that he could get in and talk to you about. And he would just talk to you for days about it. And you'd leave it and you're like, this guy shouldn't be this genuine, you know? This is a guy that made $5 million a year, and he talked to all of us, even the students, we were position coaches, we were coordinators.
That's awesome,
dude. It's so funny because you talk about him. What type of kid or what type of personality was it seemingly hardest for him to, I guess, get to and connect with? Because seems to me like the guy could connect with a tree stump. It doesn't really matter. So what type of kid is it? What type of kid was it? Where was it hard at?
I would say some of the also outspoken guys. That was the fun avenue to kind of watch, because he likes to banter intelligently just to kind of see where he can push your buttons. One thing I really respect about him was he'd see how tough you were. And, every guy puts on pads or puts on their uniform and they believe they're tough, and they are tough. They're a lot tougher than I am. But Coach kind of wanted to see how tough were you really. And so those were kind of the guys that it was fun to watch. One day that, Coach really pushed him. And then and that kid might not have taken it well. And the next day he comes in, he's happy as can be, and he's coming back. He's like, dude, I did have more in the tank. I did, and it became the culture that Leach would set with those same guys. And those were the guys that he uses the lessons, were the most outspoken guys and the most alpha guys. He was like, you guys have more left in the tank than you think.
Right.
And it became the culture of, you don't want to let your brothers down. Right. And it was exactly what we needed over at State. But there were some funny battles, man, because these are some alpha dudes, and I'm like, Coach, you're 5'5", this dude's 6'6".
He was only 5'5"?
No.
I don't.
I was like, damn, he's a little short guy. I was like, Jesus.
No, my guy's bigger than that for sure. But it'd be some guys that I'm like, this is an NFL DN coach, and you're looking up at him like this, right. You're eye to eye with him, and he wouldn't buck down. But that was the thing, is he treated everybody the same. It didn't matter if you were, for his year, Kylan Hill, you were our star player, or you were a walk-on. He treated them all the same.
Do you have a specific experience or story, maybe that didn't happen to you specifically, maybe it did happen to you, somebody on staff or whatever, that was like, wow, I gotta tell you about what just happened to X, right? A story that just sticks in your head that's one of the best ones.
So, there's a couple. So,
can you say how many do you have?
Yeah. Perfect.
How long you got me for?
Yeah.
And so, one thing with Coach didn't have a driver's license. And so,
I love that.
I mean, he didn't drive, you know. And
It's so off the cuff. Like we're supposed to know that.
Look, man, when you're around him, it's one of those things where like you forget, like, and it's something that, you know, rest in peace. But like all of us have been calling each other and talking to each other. You forget just how unique he was when you're around him every day, because it just becomes so that's just coach,
right?
You know, and so he'd get picked up by the quarterback GA, and he was my roommate in Starkville, so he'd have to like leave and go pick him up. And now you got to remember, this dude was a walk-on quarterback for him at Washington State. He gets like on a plane with his own money to work and like get paid GA money and live in Starkville, Mississippi. So he's like, Coach, I'm just doing this for the love of the game. Well, he's got to pick up Leach every day. And it's different times. You got to coordinate with, you know, Coach's wife and Coach, because sometimes Coach just leaves his phone, and that's what Coach does for the day. And so
oh my God.
There's one day Trey, the quarterback GA, got in a wreck, but he had backed into a car that was like just parked like on the side of the road on the little ditch, and Coach was like, you're fine, you can go. And Trey was like, it's not your car, it's my car. And that was Coach. Coach like just lived in his own world sometimes, and you know,
just go hit and run. It's fine. It's fine.
Leave it. Just
take
go
care of it.
I honestly think to him, he's like, you were going like 10 miles an hour and there's nothing to it. And he's like, at least let me go check the car first, you know? There's those. I mean, there's sometimes, you know, we'd call coaches, you know, just our offensive staff, and we'd be like, hey, can we talk to you for a second? Like, you know, this one recruit's got a question, and they're like, yeah, we're still in offensive staff. And you're like, it's 11:30. Like, y'all, normally you guys are done for the night here, or, you know, like, y'all, this is the window. And they're like, yeah, Coach has been gone for an hour. We can't find him. And then you just call around, and it's like, oh, Coach went to go grab food at like the mom and pop barbecue shop down the road, and like that, and he just wouldn't tell anybody. But that was him. He was just sit there and he'd go, I'm hungry, and he'd get up and go.
Well, he told somebody he didn't drive.
On my walk.
Yeah. And like,
He liked to walk. He was a walker, right? He liked to walk around a lot.
Yeah. At Washington State, he'd walk, and so that was when he. I know I saw Ross Dellinger wrote a story about it, and it's really good. So when Coach first moved in, he wanted to stay in the baseball lofts, the left field lofts at Mississippi State. Well, the back of the lofts back up to the football parking lot at the facility. So when he first got there, he's like, oh, well, this is where I'm going to live. And they were like, okay, like, you know, we just gave you a $5 million contract. You're in Starkville, Mississippi, where you can buy whatever you want here for this. Like, are you sure? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm good. And so he's just
living with all the college students at the loft.
Walking through the parking lot.
Is that Leach?
Just doing it like it's nothing. And so after
Pre-game
like
parties.
Two, they were like, yeah, they're like, Coach, you gotta get a house. Like you can't live here. And he's like, well, why not? Like, he was ready to buy season tickets just to claim that as like his rent.
No interest in baseball.
None. And it was just, man, he was one of a kind. And I mean, he had that. He taught me about how he would take classes so he wouldn't have to pay off student loans from undergrad. And he's like, I'm still doing that. And like,
he would take like one class a semester, right?
Yes. So he'd take one class and teach a class. So he literally never paid a penny of his student loans from what he was saying.
Wow. Good. Hey, innovator. Innovator is probably the best way, because he was innovative on the football field. Obviously, he's innovative in the how to avoid paying your student loans.
Well, he also has a law degree.
Yeah, and he's very smart. But you know, he's quirky and he's fun. Did he give you any? You know, because obviously you were in the recruiting office. What? Why are you laughing?
I just can't stop laughing at the thought of I'm making $5 million a year, but I ain't paying them loans. Let me get that class. Let me take that class.
And that was all the way through. That wasn't just like a Mississippi State stop. They said he did that at Washington State, Texas Tech. Like, that was his thing.
Wow. I respect it. Always learning. Always trying to get better.
I love it.
But you were in the recruiting side of it, right? He obviously was the head coach. He ran the whole ship. But he was an innovator offensively. He loved talking to quarterbacks. Did he help you as far as like how to, you know, in the way you recruit players, whether it be a quarterback, whether it be offensive, defense? Did he help you in the recruiting, or is that more of, you know, hey, I'm going to kind of take what I can get from him without him kind of giving me specific advice?
Instructions, yeah.
So he wasn't a micromanager. Like, we would come to him with recruiting. Like, we would say, hey, Coach, like, you know, this kid wants to talk to you. And he goes, all right, pop the film in. And that's how he would learn about these guys. He was hands off, and he trusted everybody to do their job. And that was something I was kind of like, if there's anybody that can come in and kind of tell you what to do, it's him. And so then it kind of became the point when you're watching film for us, and I'm watching a quarterback, and then Coach Leach loves him. I'm just like quietly, I'm like, shit, I didn't. Like, I'm not going to say that out loud. Like, I'm not. Right. Who am I going to tell Coach Leach, hey, Coach, actually, I think you're wrong about quarterbacks. You know?
You're wrong. Appreciate everything. You're not right.
Let me tell you about quarterback play, Coach. Like, let me tell you about quarterback play. And but he did a really good job at it, and he taught me of it's a long process in recruiting. And so with that meaning, it just because today a family's upset about a question of this, and the answer we might give them might not be the answer that's going to make them the happiest, but it's the honest answer. It's a long process for us to smooth everything over. We don't have to just make everybody happy, even though it is customer service.
Yeah.
And that was something, excuse me, he was amazing with.
Oh, get it out. It's okay. It's all right. We got you.
Doing my best. Doing my best for you, man.
You sound like Leach.
I respect you. I respect the effort there. Sometimes you can't do anything about it.
There you go. Get you a drink.
What are you going to do, man? Yeah.
How long did it take you to like realize like, man, his football mind is very unique and very different? Like, how long did that, like, was there a specific instance, or like how long did that take you to realize that?
When he used the limes out of his vodka soda our first night to coordinate plays. Yeah.
Why do you have that many limes in it? No, I'm playing.
I need
he had that many drinks.
I was about to say either he had that many drinks or that was not vodka soda. It was vodka.
Dude, he's like pulling him out. He's like, all right. He's like, so this is how we're gonna do our splits. They're gonna be this long. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, it's 11:30. We're in a Starkville dive bar. There's not much room in here, and everyone wants a photo with you. You're playing with limes on the table right now. But that was him, man. It was ball 1 second, it's something else the next, and you kind of watched him and you learned so much from him just from like watching. It's like one of those, like I used to say that it was like watching the National Geographic with him. Just like watching him operate was the most entertaining stuff in the world. Little stuff would excite him. He'd just walk by meetings and just kind of be like, hey guys, what's going on in here? And just sit in. And it's like, hey, this is like training. You know what's going on. He's just like, yeah, he just wants to listen. And so dude, that's what I was like, this guy's just different, man. And from the beginning, from the day he walked in, it was never like, hey guys, like this is what we're going to do. He's just like, hey guys, this is my vision. Like either you guys are going to listen to me or you're not. And at the end of the day, like I'm going to get shit done whether you want to do it or not. And so it was awesome, man. There's not going to be another Mike Leach, that's for sure.
Ever.
You got one, Lloyd?
Yeah, I do. I believe we had a conversation whenever we had linked up in Baton Rouge in the past, and you told me that Mike Leach had, I believe it was 15 plays, and other people would go to him, and he'd be like, try to give an innovative idea, and he'd be like, if you find a better one, I'll take one out. But he only stuck to his 15. That's why he had the little note card.
Yeah, and so it was the worst part, by the way. All right, so I'm going to rewind this for you guys. This is how I learned about the offense. So obviously, like when these families were asking questions, I'm kind of like, hey, coach, what do you want me to say outside of you're going to throw the ball? Like, that's not going to help us. And he says, okay. And they explained to me the offense. Same offense since 1999. And now I'm an SEC guy. I've grown up in the South. All I know is SEC football. So I say, all right, we're having the same offense for 23 years. Okay. That's bold, all right? And we're going to throw 60 times. Good. We want DNs to get more pass rushers. And so then he sits there and he goes, yeah, it's 15 plays, the whole playbook. And you're like, what? It's 15 plays? He's like, yeah, 15. If you want a new one, like if you're sitting there in staff and you go, hey guys, why don't we do a flea flicker? He's like, all right, what play do you want to take out to add the flea flicker? There's never a 16. There's never going to, he's like, I'm never adding a 16 play. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh shit. And so Gardner Minshew comes in, he's a Mississippi guy. So, we're all talking and he tells us this story. Gardner tells it best because he does the Leach voice and everything. So the hand signals are the same since 99. Leach never changed the hand signals.
How does it not get caught?
We're getting there. Don't worry. And so we're sitting there, and Gardner tells us a story there in Oregon, and he says the DC's running out doing this because he called scissors. So they're going to run scissors. And Gardner was like, yeah, still hit him for 21 yards. I was like, they knew the play that was coming. The DC ran down, told his defense to play, and you still hit him. And he was like, yeah. But what Leach would do is in practice, we're going to master these 15 plays to where it doesn't matter if you know or not. And I was like, so this is just ultimate trust. Because an SEC guy, I was like, I'm terrified this isn't going to work. Like, I was scared.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to recruit some of these families. You know, like I had a kid from Louisiana committed to us as a receiver. He was an Under Armour All-American and going to LSU. And I was still like, man, I don't know how I'm going to hang on to this kid. And I was like, shit, man, this is 15 plays. If I can put out a VHS tape and see the same hand signals, that's probably not good. I feel like he's going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Like Kirby Smart's going to figure this out. But like, that was the thing with him.
Bo Pelini certainly didn't.
Yeah, Bo Pelini definitely didn't figure that out.
He did 15 years ago, though.
15 years ago he did.
But isn't that...
I thought I signed the Heisman winner when KJ went for 60.
Right, yeah.
I was like, I'm getting a raise. I was like, this is amazing.
And then he wasn't the quarterback at the end of the year.
Oh, LSU! Every LSU fan was convinced that Mississippi State was like,
really good.
They're in power
Really
under
good.
Mike Leach. But isn't that Mike Leach just trusting what football is the entire time? It's like cover 2 is cover 2. If you run this, it works against.
Yeah.
He was just going against what scheme was.
Yes, and my favorite thing that people always say is, "Well, just drop 8." And I remember Leach would always sit there and we talk about it because, like, they gave us that in the SEC. But when they drop 8 with the way his system was, and I'm not as X and O's in it as everybody else was, but like, I mean, it was you had to trust the system, and that's what Gardner always talked about was for the system to work. It's a blind trust because each route, like, it is 15 plays, but there's a cover beater for each route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So whatever you're going to run, somebody's going to be open. You just got to trust it. And I remember when, we're all talking about the drop 8 because it's about like third week in a row. It's kind of giving us problems. And Leach goes, you motherfuckers think anybody is like, no one's dropped 8? You guys think no one else dropped 8? Fucking 20 years? And you're like, well, yeah, coach, I think you're right. I guess someone else has done it. And he's like, yeah, we'll be fine. And so that was something that was like, you're just sitting there and you're like, dude, I got to blindly trust the system. The plays look like they're on an Applebee's paper napkin from the bar.
Got lime juice on them.
Yeah, with lime juice. And he's like, wipe it up. Like, so you sit there and you're like, dude, this is just like, it's a hope and a prayer. It's like, that was blind faith at the end of the day, and it works. And it was amazing to watch him coach quarterbacks in a way that most people want to coddle a quarterback. Because you don't want to, mess with their psyche and things like that. But Leach coached them hard.
Yeah.
And it just made those guys better. Yeah. Like Will Rogers, dude, Rogers is a dog, man. Like he's putting up big time stats under Leach, and Leach hasn't played many freshmen.
Yeah.
Like if you look at his career.
I think he's. I've been impressed with him, obviously, by watching him. Stuff that he did at LSU, played him pretty well this year. But Mike Leach, I think it's there's been a ton of stories about him going on around social media, print media, all the talk shows, everything, and well deserved, right? Because this is a Mike